Good morning, everyone. I'm Junimi from the Southeast Asian Fisheries Development Center, Aquaculture Department. And with us right now are the heads of offices of SEAFDEC AQD and some of our experts. So I'll introduce first Dr. Felix Ayson, our chief, and then Dr. Takuro Shibuno, our deputy chief, Dr. Estepa, the head of the Technology Verification and Demonstration Division, and Dr. Evelyn Grace Ayson, the head of Research Division. Our experts are Dr. May Katakutan, a nutrition expert. She's seated there. Dr. Edgar Amar on fish health and fish diseases. Ms. Rovilia Lujan, our seaweed expert. Dr. Emilia Quinicio, our crab expert. Ms. Kylin Kore, the head of our administration division. May I call on the chief, Dr. Ayson, to say something about SEAFDEC and for his opening message.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to be with you today. Before I'll say something about SEAFDEC, the Southeast Asian Fisheries Development Center Aquaculture Department, I would like to say that the delegates of APEC, the Agriculture Technical Cooperation Working Group, and the High-Level Policy Dialogue on Agriculture Biotechnology visited us on last September 29 and yesterday. Okay. So what we showcase to our APEC delegates are the technologies that we have in SEAFDEC Aquaculture Department. SEAFDEC, by the way, is a regional treaty organization. This is composed of 10 member countries of the ASEAN, okay, plus Japan. Okay. SEAFDEC was established in 1967 with the main objective of promoting fisheries development in the region. Okay. It has 5 technical departments spread across 5 member countries of ASEAN. So there is a technical department that deals mainly with capture fisheries. This is based in Thailand. We have a technical department, the Marine Fisheries Research Department, that deals mainly with post-harvest technology. This is based in Singapore. And then another technical department that deals with coastal resource management, the Marine Fisheries Resources Development and Management Department. This is based in Malaysia. And another department that deals with our freshwater environment, lakes, rivers, reservoirs, the Inland Fisheries Resources Department. This is based in Indonesia. The 5th technical department of SEAFDEC is based here in the Philippines, Iloilo, the Aquaculture Department. Okay. The Aquaculture Department, our mandate is to promote or generate technologies for sustainable aquaculture. We capacitate people and institutions towards sustainable aquaculture, and then we disseminate this information to all our clienteles. So what we showcased to our visitors last Tuesday and yesterday were the mature technologies that we developed in AQD for the past 40 years. Because AQD was established in 1973. So we have more or less more than 40 years of doing scientific research. Okay. So in those visits, we showcase to them the different technologies that we have on seaweeds. Okay, right now we have these plantlets of seaweeds we call new variety that grows faster. Okay, 6 to 8% growth per day compared to what the farmers are having now in their farms, which grow only 2 to 3% per day. We have a new way of growing oysters. I hope you like oysters. Oysters normally grow in clusters. Okay, so our way of growing them is individually. Okay, and with that, the oysters grow faster. Okay, and it is very easy to harvest and easy to market. Okay, because they are grown individually, singly. And in these areas also where we grow them, we monitor the quality of the environment, such that there are areas, for instance, the study set that we have for our oyster project, the oysters we produce are really class A. When I say class A, right after harvest, you can eat it. And class A also is this quality of oysters that pass or that is accepted by the EU market, okay, considering how strict the EU market is. Okay. There are areas where the oysters that we produce, we classify as class B and class C. So we do some kind of relaying activities to more or less make these oysters safe for human consumption. We also showcased our technology for mud crab production, alimango, locally here alimango. We now breed the alimango in captivity. We produce the crablets in captivity. We grow them in the nursery, and we grow them to the marketable size in grow-out pans. We can now produce soft shell crabs. When I say soft shell, these are newly molted crabs. You get it after molting, you get it immediately from the seawater, put that in fresh water, they will not harden. Clean that, freeze that, then it's ready for cooking. You can eat all, no waste. That's for soft shell crab. Okay. And then we also have the abalone. Okay. We breed the abalone in captivity. We produce the seeds in captivity. We grow them in the nursery and in grow out. And aside from that, we have the marine fishes. Okay, when I say marine fish, we have milkfish, we have the groupers, we have the pompano, we have the snappers, we have the sea bass. These species we now grow in captivity. You breed them, you produce the fry in the hatchery, you grow them in the nursery and in the grow-out ponds also. In all these commodities that we have, we develop the feeds. The feeds are species-specific. Different feeds for your bangus, different feeds for your crabs, different feeds for your shrimps. And these feeds are also different from the different life stages. You have feeds for the breeders, okay, for our pregnant organisms. These are very expensive, okay, because you put a lot of additives in there. We have feeds for our newly hatched larvae and the fry. We have feeds for our nursery and for our grow-out. So we are in that stage now where our feeds developed for our aquaculture commodities are species-specific and stages-specific also. Okay? So what we're telling our APEC friends, delegates of our APEC member countries is that we have this institution in the Philippines that are doing all this kind of activities. Okay? And remember the theme of this week's APEC meeting is on food security. And right now in the market, 50% of the aquatic organisms or the fish supply you see in the market is produced in farms. 50% of that is still we get from the sea. Okay? But with the increasing population that we have, the direction now is really towards growing more of the fish in farms. So intensification of aquaculture. So what we in the aquaculture department is doing, being a research organization, is really trying to make this intensification of aquaculture sustainable. And that these activities should be also in harmony with the environment. Aquaculture can coexist, okay, with the other activities that we do in our environment. Okay. So in here, what we emphasize is that there is a continuous need for R&D, continuous need for innovations, and organizations like Aquaculture Department, where the activity is really on doing scientific research, can help a lot. So we tell them that this organization in the Philippines is doing this kind of activity, and since one of our mandate is to capacitate people, they can always come to us for training courses, for sharing of information. The main goal here is really for food security. Yeah, okay. So I hope you have now an idea of what we are doing in the department. Yeah, okay. Mainly for fisheries and aquaculture. Okay. So probably we can
Thank
start
you,
having the questions.
Dr. Ayson. The floor is now open for questions. Before you ask the question, please identify yourself and your agency. Who wants to shoot the first question? Yes, please.
Good morning. I'm Angela Samonte from the Presidential News Desk. My question is how big the challenge is with regards to climate change in terms of ensuring food security and the impact of climate change in our oceans and fish reproduction, something like that.
Very good question. Yeah. Actually, the climate change program is one of our programs in the department right now. Right now, we have our research activities are classified into 5 broad thematic programs. We have quality seed, production of quality seed. There is healthy and wholesome aquaculture. There is socioeconomics. There is maintaining environmental integrity. And the 5th one is adapting to climate change. Okay. So what we in the department is doing right now is looking at the effect of these factors to aquaculture production. We need to know first, there are a lot of basic questions that we need to answer. Okay? For instance, with climate change, what we have in mind is our milkfish industry. Okay, so in the Philippines, okay, our top, I would say, top aquaculture produced after seaweeds is milkfish. And we know how important milkfish is. But with the predicted increase, okay, IPCC predicted some increase in the temperature, like 33 to 34 degrees at the end of the century. The first question we asked was, will our milkfish spawn or reproduce in captivity? We do not know. In the event that they will not spawn, then we will have no fry that we can stock in our ponds. We don't have no fry that we can stock in our cages. So in other words, a very, I would say, dark scenario is that there will be no more milkfish industry in the event that our bangus will not spawn. So right now we're having this proposal for DA bar, DA and DOST. We answered that question first with our Samaral. I don't know if you're familiar with Siganids, the Malaga. Okay, the reason why we did this first with Malaga is that our breeders for milkfish, I don't know if you have, some of you have visited, have accompanied our APEC delegates yesterday. Our breeders are this big, okay? Right now we have 33 years old bangus breeders that weighs about 15 to 20 kilograms. Okay? And then they are put in big holding tanks, okay, 500 cubic meters of seawater. So the challenge here is, if we do experiments looking at the effect of water temperature, then we need to heat this large volume of water, maintain that water, and this is for long term. Okay? So, as a scientist, we looked for a model organism where we can test, okay, this question, or we can experiment this question. So we looked for a smaller species, but still commercially important, the Malaga. The Malaga, the breeders is only 200 to 300 grams. Okay. So what we did was put this in an experiment. We have our control, the normal temperature that we have now. Then we have a temperature higher than normal. and the 31 degrees, and the highest temperature we tested was the one predicted by IPCC. And I will tell, this is a 10-month experiment, and I will tell you that they spawn still at 33 degrees Celsius, but the embryo will not survive. When I say embryo, the fish will produce eggs, but there is a developing embryo inside. And this is the embryo. After 24 hours, they will hatch and they will become your larvae. Okay. So there is no problem with gonadal maturation, reproduction at 33 degrees Celsius, but the problem is the embryo will not survive. So in other words, if the embryo will not survive, then we have no fry. But that is for Samaral, Malaga, right? We will do that for bangus because of its implication to the industry and the other species that we are doing in AQD. Okay. So there is a threat. There is a threat to aquaculture production. Okay. We're just looking at the temperature itself, but we know that our oceans will become acidic as well. So we still have to factor that in. Okay. I'm not saying it's. I would say that the future is really dangerous or dark. Yeah. There are ways where we can surpass this one. We cannot underestimate the ability of these organisms to adapt. They will adapt, but adaptation takes time. Yeah. And we cannot afford to stop production of fish in farms. People need to eat. Okay. So in the event that the organism still cannot adapt, we need to have some alternatives. Okay. So for instance, if our bangus will spawn, just the same as the siganis will spawn at 33, but the embryo will not survive, then probably we need to put up a facility, controlled facility just for the embryo, so they will hatch. See? So they will hatch. In other words, we still have fry. But the implication here is that because you have more inputs in there, then the cost of production will increase a little bit. So if this happens, then our bangus may become a little bit more expensive as well. Yeah. Yeah. So we need to provide this data to our policymakers for them to plan. Yeah. It is our role as a research organization to provide this scientific data to our policymakers. I hope that answers your question, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions?
And if I may add, the effect of warmer temperatures now, because right now we have a lot of collaborators now, private collaborators for our mud crab project. Okay, as I've said earlier, we can now breed mud crab in captivity. We can produce the seeds in captivity. We can grow them in the nursery, grow out. But one of our collaborators in Cebu reported to us that their mud crab last year stopped spawning, stopped breeding. And the possible reason for that, they said, was that probably it's because of the high temperature. I would like to call on Dr. Kinisho because this is her project and she's in contact with those farmers in Cebu. Yeah.
Good morning. I'm Emilia Quinicho, and I'm working on the mud crab, which is the locally known as alimango. I'll stand up. So we have a project on mud crab, and our collaborators are mostly private sectors who are also doing the seed production of mud crab, because our problem now is the availability of seed stock for farming. And mud crab is our export commodity, and it's about 3 billion pesos industry in the country. So we also interact with the private sectors on the issues and problems of this commodity so that we can address these issues through our research activities. So now we are having problems with high temperature in relation to the breeding of mud crabs. So we are doing some studies to address this so that in the succeeding months or in the next summer where we experience high temperature, we can reduce the problem on the poor performance of the mother crabs.
Yeah, thank you very much. And if I may add, the problem of climate change is also, I would say, it will be felt most as well with our seaweeds. Okay, the seaweed industry. Okay, right now, a lot of our seaweeds farmers are reporting like the occurrence of ice disease. Yeah, this is a kind of disease that really happens when the seawater temperature becomes high. Okay, so I would like to ask our seaweed expert, Ms. Luhan, to add a little bit more on the scenario of seaweeds that probably will happen, okay, if this prediction for the climate change really will happen in the future.
Hi. Hello, good morning. I'm Maria Rovilla Lujan of a seaweed commodity of SEAFDEC. So right now, we have problems in the farm, like farmers are already complaining that they do not have seedling. I mean, they experience die-off during summer. So before, the normal temperature we experienced was only up to 30 degrees. Now it increased to 32 degrees centigrade. And our Kappa-ficus especially, which is our major seaweed product, cannot tolerate higher temperatures like 32. It can tolerate in like short exposure, but longer exposure will be damaging. So right now we want to do more on the species and environment interaction experiments so we can produce a more adaptable quality species of Kappa-ficus for the farmers. And also, we are doing some genetic studies also to address the problem of decreasing production of our seaweeds.
The approaches to that would be something like we need to make our seaweeds strong, okay, robust enough to withstand these changes in the environment. So factors like providing nutrients, more nutrients to them, okay, to make them strong, and at the same time making the plantlets, okay, the starting material really also robust, okay. That's why our activities with the seaweeds group is trying to improve the quality of the seaweeds through other techniques like tissue culture, protoplast fusion, okay. The idea is to really improve the quality of the seaweeds for them to withstand, okay, these changes in the environment. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, sir. Good morning. I'm Sarah Fabunan from Manila Standard. Sir, question lang po. What yung regarding dun sa milkfish? And, what is your projection on how much loss we may have in aqua industry due to climate change? To how much yung increase? May ano po ba kayong estimated price ng increase dun sa milkfish once you started operating the control facility for milkfish, yung sa embryo to hatch, ganyan. Tapos, how much do you need to spend to address this issue now na to address this issue of decrease in production of fisheries?
Yeah, thank you very much for that, and thank you for giving us an idea of what data to collect, okay, in our future activities. As I have said, we have not done this in milkfish because of the huge size of the facility that we need to control. Okay, the data I mentioned to you earlier was for the Malaga, the Samaral. Yeah, okay. But what I was saying was that in the event that what we observe in the Samaral will also happen with milkfish, then we have a problem. Okay. So I like the question that how much do you need to probably how much do you need to address the problem? Okay. That's a very good question because that's the amount that we will ask from the government to provide us. Okay, funds to do this kind of work. Yeah. But right now we don't have that yet. Okay. But I don't think it's not that high because right now what is the normal temperature that we have? Around normal, okay? Water temperature, okay? 28, 29, 30. They still survive. Now, from 30, and then you want to raise it 2 or 3 degrees Celsius higher, I think the cost of heating that water, that difference of 3 degrees Celsius will not be that much. Yeah, okay. But it's just because of the huge volume of the tank that we are using for these huge breeders, then you can see, okay, how probably difficult. It's not difficult as long as the financial resources are there. Everything can be done. Yeah. But again, thank you very much for asking that question. Yeah.
Some more questions from the floor? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Lydia Pendon of the Manila Times. And I would like to take that issue on the mud crab problem. Well, we would like to know what steps has SEAFDEC taken in order to solve that problem this coming summer season, especially in the province of Capiz, which is considered as the seafoods capital of the Philippines.
Dr. Baves, please.
We have another project in collaboration with De La Salle University, where we are going to determine which place in the Philippines the crabs can survive. Like in Cagayan, where they can observe the extremes, the temperature from very low and to very high level, and still the crabs can survive in that area. So we're going to check what are the characteristics in that area that can provide the survival of the growth and survival of the crabs. So one is the genetic aspect, and then second is to do experiment on the different levels of temperature in breeding the animals and determine which one would give us better performance, even with the high survival, or rather high level of temperature. In Capiz, in related to Capiz, we were not informed about the problems on temperature in the pond yet. But in the hatchery phase, we have this poor reproductive performance of the crab, no? Because of the high temperature during summer. So for the grow out phase in Capiz, we have not observed any problem on the high temperature yet.
And if I may add, ma'am, it's like this. Our colleagues from, our collaborators from De La Salle University mapped out the population of mud crabs in the country. And they found out that somehow the population of mud crab in north, Cagayan, in Bugay, Cagayan, somehow has wider tolerance to temperature fluctuation, okay, among the population of mud crabs that we have in the country. So they think that the reason why these mud crabs up north in Cagayan has a wider tolerance to temperature fluctuation is because in that area, the temperature fluctuation also is very wide. Okay, just this morning I had this lecture with our mud crab trainee, and I have 2 trainees from Bugay. They said the water temperature can go as low as 25 during the colder months of the year and as high as 36 during the warmer months of the year. So in other words, at 36, sometimes the air temperature in Cagayan reaches 42. That's what they told me. So what I'm saying is you have here a population of mud crab in our country that are already exposed to this wider tolerance of temperature. So in other words, we have a potential pool of breeders that we can use in the future in case we really have these warmer temperatures in the future. Okay? So in other words, we can make use of the population of mud crab in Bugay, Cagayan as our pool, okay, of breeders that we can use throughout the country. Because probably, most likely, the other mud crab population in the country will not survive the higher temperatures in the future. So that's one. In other words, we have, this is not only true for crabs, but what I'm saying here is that we need, in anticipation for the future effect of climate change, we need to look at possible organisms in the country or outside the country that are tolerant to higher temperature, wider fluctuation, and to acidic waters. Okay? And we'll make use of these stocks as the future stocks for aquaculture production.
Some more, yes, please.
I do have a couple of questions, actually. First, for our seaweeds and crab experts here. Ma'am, in terms of revenue, are we seeing reduction of revenue due to the higher temperature, the challenge of higher temperature on the crab and seaweed industry? From 3 billion, are we seeing reduction or any projection if we can't have the solution for these challenges?
It's possible that we will have a reduction in the production because in the initial studies that we had before, the larvae of the crab cannot survive more than 32 degrees centigrade, so that if the temperature in our environment or in our ponds or rather in the tanks, if that's the temperature, then we will have mortalities. We will experience mortalities, and then we will not have crablets for the farmers.
Yes, ma'am. How much of the percentage we may lost for because of this?
As of now, we cannot still estimate the percentage, but
Okay.
I think it will be a significant decrease in the production if that will continue, and if we cannot address the problems right away.
How about on seaweeds industry, ma'am?
Yes, yung sa seaweeds naman, right now, ang temperature natin is like 32 during from April, May, June. So July, this year, like for example this year, we introduced propagules that is fast growing. So during the months where they can grow seaweeds, we give them propagules that are fast growing to cope up with the times that they cannot produce, like the months of April, May, and June. So one is that, and then the other one is we introduce some techniques where they can grow their seaweeds faster if they cannot acquire of the propagules coming from the laboratory, and the other one is we identify new sites for propagation, for farming, I mean. We identify some farming areas for them to grow, to increase the production of our seaweeds, or rather, maintain them. But right now, our seaweed production is still increasing.
Still increasing. Ma'am, how much is the value of the total industry?
The value, I mean in dollars,
Yes.
I think it's 110 million US dollars. All products
Annually.
annually. That is high. I think now it's higher. It grew up. I think now it's more than 110. It was last year, 2 years ago. So now we have the products, the road-dried seaweeds. We have the semi-refined Karaginan, and also the alkali-treated chiefs. Total, we have the production of. I think the revenue is about 115 million US dollars.
Ma'am, what's the driver of that growth despite the challenges of climate change?
Sorry.
What's the driver of that growth in revenue or the value of seaweed industry despite the climate change challenges?
Ano?
Perhaps expansion in the
Yes.
culture areas?
Oh, yes. Expansion of culture areas, and so providing them also of micropropagules, because the micropropagules is a new technique. Producing micropropagules is a new technique with fast-growing ability of the seaweeds. Because normally now in the farm, we have a growth rate of 1.5 to 2%. Now the micropropagules that we give them, it can range from 4 to 8% per day growth rate. So makakakope sila during times na they can grow.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. I do have some more questions. To Mr. Ayson, sir, you said that 50% of the total aquatic organisms are produced in farms. How much do you want to increase that with the growing population, as you mentioned earlier? What's your target percentage or share of aquaculture farming?
Yeah, there are figures for that. Considering the population growth rate, there's a global figure, and we trim it down to our local scene, okay? Considering our population growth rate and the per capita consumption for each Filipino, that I forget the figure, but by 20, the baseline was for our production in 2010, and my projection was just for 25 years. I think we need to increase the production by, I'm not accurate, okay? We need to increase the production by 30% from the 2010 level if we need, or if we, just to provide food for the population by 25 years after, okay? So the challenge there for the aquaculture industry is, can we meet that increase? Yeah. With the present technology that we have, probably we can increase that by increasing areas of production. Yeah, that's why if you notice, milkfish before was only produced in ponds, right? And then lately or later, Laguna de Bay, okay, we produce milkfish in freshwater because milkfish really are very, I would say, very versatile or very strong fish. Okay, they can grow from freshwater to marine. Okay, but with the increased demand of milkfish, we now grow them in marine waters. We have a lot of cages, okay, mariculture parks, okay. So probably we can increase more of our mariculture areas. That's the program of our government, the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. But we don't rely on that. We need to improve on the efficiency of the production, okay. Then that is where R&D really is needed, okay. Yeah.
And sir, can you explain the advantage of aquaculture farming than sourcing the food from sea?
The advantage, I don't look at it as an advantage. I don't know, but I think it's just necessary for us to produce it in farms, considering that many of our fishing grounds are already overexploited, right? There's just too much overexploitation. People now, the fishermen are now going into resorting to illegal means of catching fish, destroying the habitat. It's because there's not much fish out there and many people are catching fish. So there is really that necessity to provide the lacking supply of fish for our people, and we need to do it in farms. Okay. The advantage is that we now have the technology to produce some of these important commodities of ours. We just need to continue improving the technologies that we have. But we have to tell our farmers, for sustainability, we need to do this responsibly. Okay? We need to do this responsibly. Otherwise, we will end up destroying our environment as well. Yeah, okay.
And last question, the other sources may also answer this one also. Can you reiterate the role and contribution of fisheries sectors with regard to food security, and how much of the APEC population depends on fisheries and aquaculture as a source of food and livelihood also? Thank you.
Ikaw ma? Fair?
If we look at the different food production sectors, aquaculture is really the fastest growing sector. I think growing more than 10% annually compared to livestock, for example, that grew less than 5 or less than 10%. So if you look at it that way, over the years, the importance and the contribution of aquaculture to food security has really increased significantly. And if we look at a future scenario where aquaculture would continue to contribute to food security, either in its current level or your increased contribution, then more investment may be needed to enhance the aquaculture industry.
Yes, please.
Sir, follow up doon sa tanong. About the expansion, yung bang expansion ng aquaculture is concerned, yung areas? Because Erie, a few days ago, reported about the declining rice production in terms of agriculture, because of less available, yung available na lands is declining. So is it a concern yung for your expansion?
Yes. Actually, as I have said, there are two ways of increasing production. You either can expand the area of production and improve the efficiency. Okay. If you will ask me personally, we should go first for improving the efficiency because there are other uses of these areas also. Okay. Although our sea is very vast, okay, but you cannot farm also in open oceans. Okay. There is also a limited area in our seas where you can do farming. Yeah. Okay. And there are other uses of these areas. Okay. So if you will ask me, my question would be, we would always continue improving the efficiency and then at the same time looking at possible areas of expansion. Yeah. I understand the situation of the agriculture. We don't have enough land. Okay. So our only way to increase production, agricultural crops, is really to improve on the production efficiency. Okay. That is why biotechnology comes in, okay, some genetic engineering comes in. You know, these are powerful tools that can really help us, okay, increase production. Yeah. And yeah,
I would like to add, because we talk about expansion of aquaculture areas, but there is really one major concern that we shouldn't, or constraint that we shouldn't forget. This is the availability of seed stocks. For example, for milkfish, our industry at current production levels of 350,000 metric tons, we would need about 2.3 billion milkfish fry. But we cannot collect that 2.3 billion milkfish fry from our coastal waters. This has to be produced in hatcheries. There's a lot of interest in groupers, for example, but you can collect very few grouper fingerlings in our wild waters, in natural habitats. So this has to be produced in hatcheries, which currently we do not have. And I think to talk about expansion for any of the commodities that we are interested in, even for crabs, the support in terms of seed production in hatcheries has to be there. We cannot talk about areas for expansion only. We need to also consider inputs that we need for expansion.
Sir, we were discussing climate change, ano ba? But yung bang pests, diseases, is it a major challenge din in aquaculture?
yeah, there are four, I would say, four critical areas that we need to look at as far as the effect of climate change to aquaculture production. One is the reproduction, early development of these organisms, growth will be affected, and number four is the incidence of diseases. Because most likely, under higher temperature, there will be more diseases, occurrence of disease. I would like to ask Dr. Amar to add more on the issue of diseases.
Yeah. Actually, AQD or SEAFDEC AQD is working with several commodities that are very important for food security. And I think aside from mud crab, we also have shrimp, which is a darling of the aquaculture industry in the 1990s. The shrimp industry is about a 20 billion peso industry. And in the 1990s, Philippines is in the top 10 of the shrimp producing countries in the world. But because of diseases, there was a sudden drop in production, and now we are nowhere to be found. And that is one of the major challenges. And so there are several approaches for prevention or control of diseases. And we do this by instituting biosecurity in the farms, meaning we exclude the pathogens as much as possible, and also use alternatives to chemicals which are harmful to the organism itself as well as to humans. So this is a food safety concern with the use of antibiotics. So we either use natural sources of antibiotics, such as plant extracts, or we also use probiotics, which are very familiar with the biomedical industry. This is very effective for the control of human diseases. And there's no reason why it could not be effective with shrimp or aquaculture disease as well. And also we are developing vaccines also. If you were able to visit our booths yesterday at SEAFDEC AQD, we have already developed and tested, of course, under laboratory conditions, vaccines for marine species such as pompano, sea bass, as well as groupers. And we'll also developed vaccines for shrimp, which we have tested in tanks, but we're still developing it in order to be more efficient. And in addition to that, for the new emerging diseases, we are doing collaborations with different agencies in the Philippines, including universities and government agencies, such as the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. As mentioned a while ago by the Chief, we have collaborations with De La Salle University, Ateneo de Manila University, in projects funded by PICARD and the OST. And so, in these projects, we try to map the occurrence of diseases all around the country and try to collect isolates in order to find where they are, in order to find out when they occur, so that we'll be able to apply or develop proper intervention measures. Thank you.
And wait, it's okay. If I may add to the question of our friend from PIA earlier on the increase of production, and Dr. Bing related some problems of inputs. Well, Dr. Bing emphasized the scarce, not much fry available out there. We need to consider also the feeds. Okay, so I would like to ask Dr. May to give more information on where we are now on the feeds, because right now when you say aquaculture, feeds is there. Okay. Yes, Dr. May.
Okay. For the major species that we study at our institution, the SEAFDEC AQD, we have formulated efficient feeds for the species that we grow, for the fry, grow out, and broodstock. For the efficiency of our feeds, we have proven that this worked. I think it is the cost that we are concerned. In our country, we had the ad valorem tax, and we have high cost. For example, in Indonesia, for the similar formulation and same feed, almost, their feed is cheaper because the electricity cost is cheaper. So I think our feed formulations are efficient, only that we need to have less tax from these imported ingredients that we use in our formulations. And also the electricity cost. We have these formulations, but the claymore is for cheaper cost. So I think in feed mills, using some informations from our studies at our institution, they have used this in their formulations, but because of cost of ingredients that are most imported, they have to somehow tweak the formulations. But anyway, I would like to say that we have already existing formulations for important aquaculture species in our institution. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Good morning. My name is Sweden from People's Television. Dr. Felix, do we have any figure or record on the number of food waste or food loss in aquaculture farming?
Very good question. Actually, I think it's I don't know. As far as it's a common knowledge now that actually we're wasting a lot of what we produce, and I don't know if there was this because of this too much wastage. I saw in one of the ads, I don't know if it's an ad or some newspaper column, that probably we need to ban the only rice because somehow people are just, but I think it's in relation to that if we can just be, I would say, more responsible enough in making use of these resources, trying to minimize wastage, there will be enough food for all. Yeah. I'm not quite sure, but the FAO data, this is for the global, okay, global amount of food wastage. It was very high. It's very high, but I cannot quote the figure now. Yeah, and the message from FAO in that is that if this amount of food are not wasted, these are enough to feed the hungry people. So if you look at that, actually there is enough food, but somehow a greater portion of this is wasted. Yeah. So we need to look at that, address that. That is why the post-harvest, post-harvest technology really is very important. Cold chain, in other words, from the farms, it should reach the market still edible, okay? Because somehow during the transport process from the farms to the market, you lose a lot of this food. Yeah, okay. So we need to improve on that. Yeah.
Okay, but sir, specific to aquaculture, we don't have a data yet.
Yeah,
You are referring to the feeds that
Yes,
we give
fish,
to
yeah.
the cultured species. I'm not sure if there is data available about how much food is wasted, but perhaps we are familiar with fish kills that happen every now and then, and this has been attributed to overfeeding that pollutes the environment and eventually leads to fish kill. That is why in our activities, every time we have training programs, we always emphasize the need for proper feeding management. Just feeding enough for optimum growth. Not because probably we think that the more we feed, the faster our stocks grow, but that is not always true.
And then, Dr. Felix, I read your article about the contribution of aquaculture to poverty alleviation and food availability. So just for emphasis, what is the contribution of aquaculture in terms of employment generation and our national GDP?
Yes. I hope you brought with you the article. Yeah. Actually, it was that project is a global project under FAO, and then they selected several countries, especially those countries that have significant aquaculture production. So in that article, I emphasized the seaweed farming, because for seaweed farming, this is for small scale farmers, okay, family based. So a family can have their own farm, and a family of 5, except for even the children, can be it's not employed, but they are helping in this activity. Okay, the father is doing the field work, the mother is doing the tying of the plantlets into the ropes, including the children. Okay, for seaweeds, the employment, the number of people employed in the seaweed industry is very high. I'm not sure of the figure, Gingging.
It's households. Number of households, it's more than 150,000 households nationwide.
This is the kind of activity that is really suited for our people in the coastal areas, family-based. Because for seaweeds, you don't need input, very minimal input, just the plantlet and the ropes. Leave it in the water, the seaweeds will have to get their food by themselves. Yeah.
All right, thank you, sir. Last question. Since you mentioned that you have collaborations with universities like LaSalle and the Ateneo, do we also have efforts of tying up with probably TESDA or CHED and DepEd with regard to developing courses about aquaculture for senior high school? Thank you.
Very good question again. Actually, we just submitted 13 training modules for TESDA. For this, during our anniversary celebration last July, we have with us as our honored guest Senator Villar. And Senator Villar's program really is on helping the farmers, okay? And she wants to help the farmers also for us to help the farmers by providing training courses, and it has to be through TESDA. So we have the 13 training modules now submitted to TESDA, and we will be, in the near future, we'll be meeting with them to discuss how these training courses will be implemented. This is not only for the students, but for training of trainers and for the farmers themselves. For the students, we have, for the K-12, we are linking a lot with, especially here in Iloilo City, some of the universities for their STEM students, science, what is that? STEM students, right? Science and math students, to do some internship with us. Okay, and we are very happy to be of help to the students. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Good noon. Leonard from PIA. Can I address this question to the Deputy Chief?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. In the more than 5 decades that SEAFDEC AQD has existed here, I thought 1960s? 70s, okay, sorry. 4 decades that SEAFDEC has existed here in Iloilo, the organization undeniably has produced significant researches, studies, innovations in aquaculture. So my question would be, can you share to us, sir, if some of these researches or studies in aquaculture that were developed here in SEAFDEC AQD, here in the Philippines, were you able to adapt that in Japan, in your own aquaculture industry in Japan?
Oh. Mainly Japanese support is for developing in Philippine countries aquaculture. So, but the supporting is Japanese south side of Japan, Okinawa and Kagoshima. That areas aquaculture also developed using that technique. Yeah, so it's Philippine and Japanese, Japan also together improved. So I'm considering that supporting to Philippine aquaculture is contribute to Japan, yeah, also, and one more important thing is supporting to Philippine government, Philippines aquaculture development, to supporting some researchers and students. For that, very important to Japan. So a lot of now increasing a lot of people, so who say likes Japan. So it's very important things. Yeah, I think so.
I just want to add to that. In addition to looking at the contribution of the investment, that how much of the contribution of the investment that Japan put into the activities of SEAFDEC AQD went back as contribution to the development of aquaculture in Japan. I think the bigger picture would be the benefits that it brings to the whole ASEAN region, because technologies that we have developed are disseminated not only in the Philippines but also to other ASEAN or SEAFDEC member countries, especially those in Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam. For the training courses that we organize, that are funded by the Government of Japan Trust Fund, there's always provision for fellowships for nationals from these member countries. So the learnings from their training are brought back to their countries to help in their aquaculture development.
If I may add to Dr. Ayson,
Okay.
like we have collaborations with Japanese scientists. So there are scientists from JERCAS working with us. So after our research, now our partner will be moving to Myanmar to introduce the technology that we have developed here, because it's not easy for Japan to adapt to the technologies that we develop, because we're working on tropical species and they are working on temperate species. So it's a different group of fisheries commodities. Have some more questions?
No, actually, I'm just interested if some brilliant Filipino aquaculture scientist from SEAFDEC was able to develop an innovation, and then it was adopted in the Japanese aquaculture industry. Like some significant findings, for example.
I think it's more of the methodologies, the process. Yeah. Because, as what my colleagues are saying, in research, you don't only look at the product, because you may have developed a process, a method towards developing a product. And this is where I think some process or methodologies that we develop here are applied, taken up by other countries, scientists from other countries, not only from Japan. Yeah. Okay.
For example, for example, milkfish aquaculture, that technology is transported to the Okinawa. Some research are very interesting in AQD's work for milkfish aquaculture. So seaweeds, some species now became popular in Japan, Okinawa region. Yeah.
Maybe last two questions from the floor. It's almost lunchtime. Yes, please.
Just relating the aquaculture industry to the APEC goal of food security, what's really the role of the organization as well as the aquaculture industry in achieving food security in the APEC region? Thank you.
Two things, okay? What is the role of the organization, and what is the role of aquaculture in food security? Okay. As I have mentioned earlier, SEAFDEC Aquaculture Department is a research organization, okay? And we see a future where we really need to increase production in farms. And as I have said, there are two ways to do that: increase in the production efficiency and probably expansion of the areas. And you need R&D, we need R&D innovations really on increasing the production efficiency. And that is where Aquaculture Department can help a lot, given our expertise, the kind of scientists that we have and the facilities that we have. And the contribution of aquaculture to food security, yes. As I have said, right now, for every 2 fish you see in the market, 1 of that is produced in farms. And I think that trend will continue, considering that our resources in the sea, in the natural environment, it has already declined. We need our marine resources, the natural environment, to recover. For these resources our natural environment to continue providing us with this food. But that will take time. That will take time if we implement proper management measures in managing our resources. So we really need to provide food for our people from farms. And as far as fish resources is concerned, aquaculture would or will provide a significant portion of that in the coming years. Now it's 50%, and it will be more in the coming years. Yes, ma'am?
You were asking about what the department has done. For example, something the department has done. For example, before we rely on the normal spawning of milkfish. Every year, it spawns only in the a few months of the year. But now, with the feeds that we have developed at SEAFDEC, the milkfish can spawn every month. And then, before, when we grow the eggs of milkfish into the fry, into the bigger sizes, we use Artemia or expensive feeds. But now, we have feeds to grow the early stages of milkfish by our feed formulations. That is good contribution enough for milkfish, which is our #1 farm aquaculture species in terms of volume and value. Thank you.
Last question, please.
And if I may add, with milkfish, the Taiwanese would claim that we use the reproductive performance of milkfish is 10 years. Okay. So after 10 years, you do not use your milkfish breeders anymore. Milkfish will mature in 5 years. Okay. You need to wait that long for them to produce eggs. And if you will use them only for another 5 years, you know the investment? See, after 5 years, you just eat them. Okay. But right now, our 33 years old breeders are still spawning. And the reproductive performance is still okay. And we attribute that to our feeds. We have an improved feed, really, that we think has maintained the reproductive capacity or reproductive performance of our milkfish. Because right now, we track the reproductive performance of our breeders. They're still up there. Although showing signs now of decreasing, but it's still up there. Yeah. So now, we still do not know how long we can make use of these breeders. Yeah. And we attribute that to a very strong nutrition team in AQD and what they did in manipulating, looking at the nutritional requirements of our milkfish breeders.
If I may add one more example for milkfish. During the 80s, before we were able to breed milkfish in captivity and develop the technology to produce fry in the hatcheries, all of the requirements, the fry requirements for our milkfish industry were taken from our coastal waters. If you are familiar with the sweeper type fry collectors. So all the fry needed for growing milkfish were provided by the fry gatherers. But right now, out of our 2.3 billion fry requirements, maybe only the 300 million milkfish fry are from the coastal fishery. The milkfish fry fishery has declined that much because of environmental degradation and not, I guess the number of breeders, wild breeders that are swimming in our oceans has declined so much. So out of the 2.3 billion, maybe 2 billion are produced by hatcheries. So I think that is a very graphic example of the contribution of aquaculture to the development of to the fisheries production, not only in our country but also in other places in the world. Not probably milkfish, but for those in Europe or the US, you could say the same for salmon.
Yes, ma'am.
Good noon. I am Runji Hamola of Radyo ng Bayan. Are you also trying to come up with a recommendation for Apex consideration? If so, what are these? Maybe have a gist of what it is?
Yes, ma'am. meeting for blue security and food security and blue economy will start today. Yeah, so we will be attending that meeting then. Yeah. In fact, the representative from Singapore, from the private sector, happens to be our former trainee. So he is attending the food security and the blue economy meeting, and we will be having a meeting with him either today or tomorrow for his contribution to the APEC meeting, because he said SEAFDEC will play a significant role in this. Yeah, so there will be an involvement of SEAFDEC. Yeah, so please wait for whatever will come out after October 5. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Last question. Okay. Thank you for having us here. Our discussions do not stop here. Feel free to contact us at www.sifdec.org.ph. You can find the emails of the experts. Sorry.
We would also like to inform you that we will be hosting together with UP Visayas and DOST Picard the first National Mud Crab Congress. So here we will be sharing with the attendees the results of the experiments and tests we have done on mud crab, and also sharing with other farmers and stakeholders the experiences that they have. The date will be on November 16 to 18, and it will be held in Diversion 21 Hotel, Iloilo City.
Thank you, Dr. Estepa. Okay. Thank you.